we must behave like real comrades, and where we differ, let us differ through debate and persuasion. This thing of targeting comrades and smearing them, using dirty tricks against them, and even killing them must come to an end. Get rid of corruption. Everything must work well in our country. Our people must live happy lives. They must feel that everything that's happening in South Africa happens to their benefit.
The CR17 bank statements and related documents were sealed because they were sourced from the Financial Intelligence Center and treated as confidential under the FIC Act, and because courts accepted arguments about donor confidentiality and procedural limits on disclosure. Counsel for the CR17 campaign argued donor confidentiality and noted that opposing lawyers had access to the documents in litigation but did not make broader public use of them, supporting the case for keeping them sealed. Little did we know that there is more to the story. While still deputy president, Cyril once said that political killings must come to an end. AMD promised to improve service delivery to the people of South Africa. Surely what he said is the opposite. Good day and welcome back to my channel. Today let us look at CR17, the Money Trail, a campaign that propelled Cyril Ramaphosa to the African National Congress presidency in 2017, became the center of a national controversy when bank records, leaked emails, and investigative reports traced nearly $200 million in donations to the CR17 fund, raising questions about donor influence and transparency. Background: the CR17 campaign raised large sums from multiple donors and used a web of accounts and trusts to manage cash flows, including transfers linked to the Reattenda Trust and other vehicles associated with campaign finance operations. A high-profile $500,000 payment from the late Gavin Watson, former CEO of Bosasa, and later revelations about additional sizable contributions turned narrow scrutiny into a full-scale probe. The revelations. Leaked internal emails and campaign notes showed fundraising conversations and transfers that undermined claims Ramaphosa was insulated from donor activity, and a typed note attributed to Ramaphosa instructing transfers between accounts became a focal point in media and legal scrutiny. Investigators and journalists highlighted patterns in the statements that suggested repeated large deposits and transfers, prompting renewed demands for accountability. The legal fight. The Public Protector's report concluded there had been misleading statements to Parliament and recommended remedial action. But that report was met with legal challenges and a review application that resulted in parts of the Public Protector's findings being set aside in court, producing a complex legal back-and-forth over process, evidence, and remedy. Judicial review and parallel media investigations turned the matter into a drawn-out contest between institutional authority and legal standards. The players under scrutiny. Cyril Ramaphosa faced the twin problems of political exposure and reputational risk as attention fixed on his campaign's funding mechanics and on specific transactions that had not been fully explained to Parliament. Cat Matlala's name appearing in campaign-related records and the so-called 121 dockets amplified the controversy and fed intense public and political debate about who authorized and benefited from campaign transfers. The story reshaped public conversations about money in politics, campaign transparency, and the vulnerability of democratic institutions to private influence. Calls for clearer disclosure rules, forensic audits, and stronger ethical enforcement grew louder as citizens, opposition parties, and civil society demanded answers and accountability. Criminal allegations against a donor can trigger fresh subpoenas, forensic audits, and renewed court applications to unseal campaign finance records. Investigations by the NPA, IPID, parliamentary oversight committees, or an independent forensic team become likelier and more politically charged. If ties between donations and official acts are found, legal exposure could extend beyond the donor to campaign operatives and officials who facilitated transactions. Media cycles will frame the story around accountability, corruption, and the integrity of state institutions, increasing pressure for transparent answers. Opposition parties will weaponize the narrative in campaigns, debates, and parliamentary questions to force admissions, inquiries, or resignations. Civil society actors and activists will demand reforms, petitions, and public demonstrations, shaping the longer-term agenda on campaign finance and police independence. Electoral and organizational risk for the ANC, polling dips, defections of swing voters, and agitation within party factions for internal reviews or leadership challenges. Fundraising difficulties if major donors fear reputational contagion, and grassroots anger that undermines volunteer mobilization. Institutional reforms imposed by courts or parliament could change party funding models and candidate vetting rules. Allegations linking a campaign donor to violent crime create immediate reputational risk for the president and the ruling party. Opponents, independent media, and civil society groups will use the connection to question judgment, vetting processes, and ethical standards. Even without legal findings against the president or the party, public perception of impropriety can erode trust and reduce political capital. The story amplifies doubts about whether donations translated into influence over appointments, tenders, or law enforcement actions. The CR17 money trail remains a live file in South African public life, a case study in how modern campaign finance, leaked evidence, and institutional checks collide, and a cautionary tale for politicians, parties, and watchdogs about the costs of opacity. Should civil society groups use the connection to question judgment, vetting processes, and ethical standards? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Bye.